Welcome back. Well, for years now, France has worked hard to promote its culture in Africa. French can be heard in at least 24 African countries and is an official language of half of those. But more controversially, the French military is also very present. France's largest foreign base is in Djibouti, where thousands of its troops are stationed. It is also where the US is building a large operation. There are another 1,200 French soldiers in Chad protecting the government from rebel attacks. And a further 3,000 soldiers patrol the Ivory Coast under a UN peacekeeping mandate. Well, over the last decade, the French military has changed the way it operates in Africa. It acts less like a single nation now, opting to cooperate more with other foreign powers such as the United States. But it was the tragedy of Rwanda that shaped this change, as Lucy Ashton now reports.
Rwanda, a place best known for this. A scene of mass death in 1994. 800,000 dead in a quick ethnic war, with ruling Hutus fighting Tutsi rebels. Most of the dead were Tutsis. The world looked away. As stark images of massacre hit the world's television sets, the United Nations stalled, not wanting to be trapped in the center of the fight. But France did act. It propped up the Francophone Hutu elite, flying weapons in and Hutu officials out, despite the growing evidence of genocide. Some argue the French action saved thousands of lives, while others accuse the French of deadly naivety, at the very least. The Tutsis, who now run Rwanda, are unforgiving. After much finger-pointing over who was to blame for the genocide, Rwanda expelled the French ambassador last November. Rwanda is a lesson the French are still learning from more than a decade later. And many wonder if France's special relationship with Africa is something better left behind.
Well, once again, our guests, Geraldine Igou from Sarkozy's Youth Support Group and retired diplomat Ambassador Patrick Leclerc. And we welcome now from London, Abdon Bayetto, the European Affairs Advisor to the President of the Ivory Coast. Abdon Bayetto in London, let me start with you, if I may. What is France's agenda in the Ivory Coast, and is it a helpful one, do you think?
We hope that the agenda, there's no hidden agenda here. As you said early on, it was very low on foreign policy where Africa is concerned. But if I would come to your question again, I would say it will be the same policy, we think. We want France and Africa to go into a partnership, not a master and colonial master issue and subject. If he's clear on this, we're happy to wish him, good luck in his presidency.
But how nervous will North Africa be after the Sarkozy win? After all, this is a man who clamped down hard on North African immigration.
Nervous, I don't think. I mean, people, he is the president of a country, he's the president of a state. We should respect him as such. He was the interior minister for a while in France when there was some rioting. And then people, we don't need to target a certain group of race here. If we would go on this level, the subject will be derived from what we'll be really thinking. He's the head of state, we should respect him. I heard Ambassador Patrick Leclerc saying that France's foreign policy is in the constitution. We hope that this time it will be well looked after, and then he will sort of go into Africa in a sort of partnership level instead of, as I said earlier, on colonial level.
All right, well, let's put that point to Patrick Leclerc. Jacques Chirac had many personal relations with Francophone countries, and that played, I think, an important role in shaping French foreign policy. Do you think that's likely to change? And how will the Franco-African relationship emerge now, do you think?
Well, I think that obviously there will be a change in style in the relationship with Africa, because, as you said, President Chirac had developed personal relations with a number, if not all, chief of state, at least within the Francophonia. It's not a heritage that can be passed as such to his successor President Sarkozy. President Sarkozy will have to develop his own contacts with his own style and without the same background that Chirac has or had. So I think there will be, through this change of style, probably a change of perception of the relation on the African side. And this change should go normally in the direction that was mentioned by the gentleman that you just questioned before me. I think that President Sarkozy is very much in his time, and he realizes very well that the world has changed, that many things around us have changed, and that therefore there should be another type of relationship, which probably means diversification in the partners, among the partners that the African states have.
Okay.
We are not, as France, looking for monopoly in this relationship. We have not done so for a while. But if there are more people who are interested in Africa, we are sure that it is for the best of Africa. The problem was not enough people getting interested in helping Africa, not too many people.
Okay, all right, let's get a viewpoint from Geraldine Igu. What about the special economic relationship between France and North Africa? I think they call it Euromed. Would Sarkozy want to see that improve, do you think?
Yes, he's talked about this a bit. He wants to expand it, actually. He thinks it should be redefined. So he's looking to expand it in a way more than just economic. He wants co-development. He wants to, because of his chosen immigration policy, he wants to concert with the African nations in question to discuss how to deal with the immigration, set a level of immigrants that can come in from each country per year, and then also help those countries in need for development and aid purposes. He's also looking at the environment issues with those countries.
Abdon Bayeto in London, let me come back to you and just talk quickly about Rwanda. Did Rwanda mark a turning point for French foreign policy in Francophone Africa, do you think?
Yeah, I do really feel. Not only Rwanda, but you also got the case of Ivory Coast, where we know that it was a shamble for the intervention in Africa. What they did in Ivory Coast, it was more participate and encourage a rebellion in Africa. But this is all behind now. We're coming off a new era. Where Rwanda is concerned, Ambassador was saying earlier on that President Chirac has got his own African ties. Okay, that's fine. But he made up a lot of mistakes there that we hope that Sarkozy is going to rectify. Rwanda was a shamble. We know, you all know that Rwanda called the ambassadors back to their country, and there's a tension between the two countries. This is a step that President Sarkozy need to be watched closely, because it could get spread the whole Africa. The new generation of Africa, as I said earlier on, are ready for a partnership development, not a colonial development. That's what you need to look at also.
Okay, Patrick Leclerc, a quick question to you. As France reduces the size of its forces in Africa, the US, the Americans are increasing theirs. So are we about to see a better French-US campaign in fighting this new front in terror in North Africa?
May I say first that I was very glad to hear this reference to a new generation in Africa, because in France it is a new generation who is coming now in power. So I think there can be very easily a common language between these two new generations. As far as your question goes, I think that if I understood properly, you are talking about fighting terrorism.
Yes, I am, indeed, yes. Yes, I am, yes.
Yes, yes. Well, may I say that in spite of all that was written or said about tensions between the United States and France on this or that, the cooperation in the fight against terrorism has always been very close, and I think very appreciated in Washington as in Paris. So I think there is, of course, always possibility to develop even more, to go even closer, and I mean it's very much related to circumstances also. But the confidence between the two countries when it comes to fighting terrorism is great.
Okay, well, I'm afraid that's all we have time for. We have to leave it there. Patrick Leclerc in Paris, Geraldine Egu in Paris, and Abdon Bayetu in London, thank you indeed for joining us. And thank you so much for joining us here on this edition of Inside Story. We welcome your comments and suggestions. Please email them to us at insidestory@aljazeera.net. From the whole team here, goodbye for now.